I'm Dylan.
And I'm Kiyan.
And this is Trust Your Doctor, that podcast where we meddle with time.
And pretend to be monks.
Yeah.
And start a fake monastery.
Well, it wasn't fake. He just used the monastery that was already there.
Well, he created some fake monks. For the record. Spoiler. Yes, we watched The Time Meddler. The first introduction of the monk, who is another Time Lord and apparently a recurring villain.
And an old friend of the Doctor's. Apparently.
He doesn't actually come back for a long time, does he, though? I'm pretty sure.
He comes back in the Daleks' Master Plan. That 12-episode long serial in Season 3.
Yay. Yeah, this serial... Well, this is the final serial of Season 2. And it was okay.
Yeah.
I didn't really find anything special with it. I mean, it was good, but it didn't really stand out much. It ended Season 2 on a pretty dark note, to be honest.
Yeah, maybe. Summary. So, the TARDIS lands, and the Doctor's still talking about how he's gonna miss Ian and Barbara.
And then all of a sudden, Steven shows up, and he's like, "Hey, guys!"
I stowed away on your ship. Guess I was right.
Which, even if I hadn't spoiled it for myself, I would have totally seen that coming.
Well, yeah, I mean, I
pretty
saw
obvious.
it.
Yeah. It's pretty obvious that he's going to be a companion.
And he's got hi-fi.
Yes.
The Doctor's
He
like,
risked
what are you
his
doing?
life for. Which brings up, is going to bring up a point later that I wanted to point out, which is kind of weird. But anyway.
Okay.
Yeah. So they go out and decide to look around as usual, and they're on this beach, and they're, well,
on a beach.
well,
Not much more to that.
They find a Viking helmet, and Steven's like, "Oh look, it's an ancient relic," and the Doctor's like, "No, we're probably in 1066.
Yeah, well, first Steven didn't believe that the inside of the ship was bigger than the outside, so like, man, I must have been like knocked out. The outside seemed pretty small. And Vicky's like, yeah, it is small. It's just bigger on the inside. And he's like, no, I don't believe you. And then he exits the TARDIS like, oh, okay.
And then he refuses to believe it's a time machine, which is why he thinks they're not in 1066, which they are. So the Doctor goes off on his own, and he tells Vicky and Steven to stay near the TARDIS, and which one of his companions ever stayed near the TARDIS when he's told them to stay near the TARDIS?
Never.
So
well,
they
Vicky
obviously
wants to. Vicky's like, we should stay by the TARDIS, Steven. He was like, no, what could be the worst that could happen?
And then some pretty bad stuff happens.
Yeah.
But that's later, because first we see the Doctor come across this village, which is a Saxon village, because they are in 1066, like he thought. And he meets this woman named Edith, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
And he gets to talking with her, and she tells him about how a monk, a bunch of monks, recently came to reoccupy the old abandoned monastery. And you can hear their chanting / singing in the background, which.
Well, the Doctor's like, maybe I shouldn't go to the cliff and make a stop by that monastery first.
Yeah, and the singing sounds kind of muffled and weird, and then all of a sudden you hear like the sort of record.
It like skips or something.
Yeah.
It stops for a second and then keeps going. It's weird.
So, the Doctor thinks that's pretty sketch, so he goes to...
It's pretty sketch. It is pretty sketch.
It is pretty sketch. So he goes to check out the monastery, and he meets this monk dude.
This monk dude. Great. This monk dude. the one and only monk, because Edith mentioned that they'd only ever seen one monk, and they just assumed all the other ones were in the monastery.
But they're not, because the doctor's looking around the monastery, and he finds out that the chanting is just a record, which is why it sounds so weird.
So he turns off the record, and then he gets captured.
And that's when he meets the monk, actually. He just gets thrown in a cell.
Meanwhile, Stephen and Vicky
are exploring, and then they meet some guys, and, well, before the doctor gets captured, they're in the forest, and they see the monk, and, like, he runs away from them, but he drops his watch, which Stephen picks up, and he's like, still believe we're in 1066 now, because it's a modern-day watch. Which is pretty weird.
and sketch.
Yeah. I mean, I already knew that the monk was a Time Lord. Spoiler, but like at this point, it's pretty obvious. I mean, you already knew beforehand too, I'm guessing.
Yep.
So they then get captured by the villagers, right?
Yep. And the villagers are pretty sketch towards Stephen and Vicky because they're outsiders. I don't know exactly why. Something about Vikings.
Yeah, I think that the villagers think they were Viking spies or something. But Edith convinces the rest of the villagers that they're okay because they know the doctor, and that's when it's revealed, I think, that Edith is Wolnoth's wife, and Wolnoth is the leader of the village.
A very creative name.
Wolnoth. Sound rather old English, I guess.
Wolnoth. Edith.
Eldred. And Eldred sort of opposes Wolnoth. I guess Eldred is like the second in command, but he vehemently thinks that Vicky and Stephen are up to no good. But they eventually are free to go. So
yeah, Edith convinces Wolnoth to let them go because they're looking for the old man who went up to the monastery.
Yeah.
So
they go up to the monastery because that's where the doctor is.
Right.
And the monk answers the door when they knock. And he just like, nope, never seen the doctor. Don't know what you guys are talking about.
So then Stephen's like, I have an idea, Vicky. Don't say anything. Then, well, the monk says he's going to go check to see if any of the other monks have seen the doctor. Other monks, in quotes. And Stephen says, Vicky, I'm going to try something. So he talks to the monk, and the monk's like, nope, never seen them. No one has. And Stephen's like, you remember his description, right? And the monk's like...
In case you run by him.
Yep. Grey hair, coat. And then they go in, and Vicky takes the stage. She's like, oh, we never told him what the doctor looks like. And Stephen's like, yep.
Pro Stephen. So now they know that the monk has seen the doctor, and they assume, rightly, that the doctor is being held captive in the monastery, so they go check out the monastery. They sneak in.
And the doctor's escaped.
Yeah, they enter the doctor's cell, and he's nowhere to be found. Yay.
Da-da-da-da.
And that leads us into episode 3, I believe.
A Battle of Wits.
It wasn't really about a battle of wits, to be honest.
The biggest battle was just the doctor and monk talking.
Yeah, and the doctor pretending
to
to
have
have
a dream
weapon.
last night where I was Adrian Monk.
What? What?
Tangentially related.
Okay.
So, Stephen and Vicky figure there must be some sort of secret passage in the doctor's cell, because otherwise how would he escape? So Vicky ends up finding the passage, and they escape through the passage, and they come out upon this clearing, and the doctor's still nowhere to be found.
So they decide to go back to the TARDIS, because they think that if the doctor had escaped, that's where he would go. But it's not.
The doctor has gone back to the village.
To warn Edith and Wolnoth and the rest of the villagers about the monk's deception.
And he also tells them that the Vikings are coming, And Edith gets suspicious at this. Because, how would he know? And he's like, oh, I've collected lots of information on my travels. And she's like, okay.
Good enough for me. But back at the TARDIS, Steven and Vicky are up on a cliff above the beach, and they see that the TARDIS is nowhere to be found because the tide has come in. And at this point, I was like, okay, Steven's just going to make a jump for it because Hi-Fi was in the TARDIS. And he risked his life last serial to save Hi-Fi. So I was like, okay, he's definitely just going to jump off the cliff, but then he didn't.
It should just be a recurring theme that Steven gets into terribly dangerous situations to save Hi-Fi.
It should be, but for some reason it's not. Well, at least in this situation.
And so the Doctor tells Edith that the Vikings are coming, and then he leaves, presumably to go back to the monastery again. And the Vikings show up, actually.
Yes. And they land, and their
drunk,
leader...
by the way. Drunk on mead.
And then they decide to stage an attack, but which I thought was kind of weird, because, like, they only send a small... I guess they send a small party, or, like, small force forward to attack, but why would they...
I think it was a scouting force.
Scouting force?
And the attack was just kind of an accident, and they're like, oops.
Oh, right, that makes sense, because the Doctor warned them, so Wolnoth took his merry crew
out to go looking.
Yeah.
And Edith goes out to pick berries or something.
Uh-huh.
Oh, we forgot about the scene where Steven and Vicky wake up and they're like, berries or berries? Was that next?
No, that was before. No. Yes. No.
That was next. Because No, that was before. That was when they got captured. Because Steven and Vicky had to sleep in the forest. And they woke up and then they got captured.
Yeah.
That's how they got captured.
Yeah.
So anyway, now Edith is going out to pick berries, I guess. And the Vikings jump her. And then leave her there. And then the attack force shows up. And they immediately think it's Steven and Vicky. Because, they were pretty sketch. But Edith, with what you think is her dying breath, but actually isn't, tells them that it was the Vikings. And so they go after the Vikings.
Yeah, surprisingly not a lot of deaths in this serial. Because, considering it's about the Vikings, you'd think there'd be quite a few deaths, but no, actually. But yeah, the Saxons meet the attacking Viking force, and they have this battle.
And one of the Vikings, named Gunnar, dies, officially becoming the 100th death in the show so far. Yay!
Congrats, Gunnar. Well, not yay. 100 people have died. No, but congrats,
17
Gunnar.
stories, comprised of 80 episodes. It's about an average of 1.1-ish per episode.
One per episode, I think we could say.
And then one of the villagers also dies. So, the villager... Another villager got injured, so they go to the monastery, because the monks are supposed to help people, right?
Yeah, Eldred got injured, so Wolnoth takes him to the monastery.
And then the doctor the doctor goes to the monastery, and the Vikings have the same idea as the villagers, so they also go to the monastery.
Yeah, the two wasn't it that Sven and Ulf, the two of the Vikings, got left behind or whatever, so they decide to seek refuge at the monastery. So they're all reconvening at the monastery.
The villagers get there first. The monk takes him in,
reluctantly.
Heal him up.
He didn't want to have Eldred stay there, but Wolnoth was like, "Can you please just let him stay?" So he does.
Right.
Which at this point made me think that the monk isn't that bad of a guy until what happens a few minutes from then.
Well, the doctor shows up, and there's a knocking at the door, and the monk's like, "What?" So he goes and opens the door, and no one's there. Prehistoric ding-dong ditch. He's like, "Dang it." He goes back inside, and then there's a knocking at the door again. So he goes and opens the door, but goes further outside this time. And then the doctor gets behind him with a stick, and the doctor pretends it's a gun.
It's like, "I have a Winchester to your back. Don't move."
And the monk's like, "Okay."
So they go back inside the monastery, And the doctor asks the monk to reveal his entire plan, which he does. And it involves using his TARDIS to go back to the Viking invasion, setting up atomic cannons, or whatever it was, destroy the Vikings, and change history.
So he can meet, what's his name? Harold.
Yeah, King Harold.
So,
which the doctor is not pleased about.
Yeah, he's not happy.
And this kind of brought up a point of confusion for me, because wasn't it stated before that, like, history can't be changed? Like, there are several key things that can't be changed no matter what you do.
Well, the writers changed their mind.
Is that all it is? It's just the writers being writers and just doing stuff?
Well, maybe before the Doctor just said history couldn't be changed because he didn't want to change it, and he didn't want any of his companions to know that technically they were able to change it, so he just told them, like, no, you're not allowed to change history.
I guess that makes sense, considering back in the Romans, the Doctor basically causes Rome to be destroyed. But I guess that makes sense. Isn't that kind of refuted in the reboot, though?
Well, in the reboot, the Doctor says there's, like, fixed points in time that if you change them, really terrible things happen.
Oh.
Like when River Song changes a fixed point in time, time collapses and all of time happens at once.
Oh.
All of a sudden, Winston Churchill becomes ruler of the Roman Empire, and the Doctor is soothsayer.
Well, that would be a good reason to stop the monk.
And the U.S. owns Area 52, which is a pyramid in Egypt. Yeah.
So...
Then the Vikings show up at the monastery.
And the Doctor decides to pretend to be a monk and answer the door.
Luckily, the monk has another monk robe.
Yeah. Yep. So...
They should do a spin-off series with the monk and his companion just changing history.
They should. They should reintroduce Canine. No. Sounds
Canine
terrible.
hasn't even been introduced yet.
I know, but they should introduce him as a companion of the monk. So Ulf and what's his face?
Sven
are the ones at the door, and they take
the Doctor and the monk hostage.
Yes, they...
Sort of. They take the Doctor hostage, but since the monk's in another part of the thing, he kind of gets away. And then they put the Doctor back in the same cell he was in before. And then the monk knocks out one of the Vikings and ties him up. And then the other Viking decides to go into the Doctor's cell, and then the Doctor knocks him out. And then meanwhile, Stephen and Vicky have gone back to the monastery again, through the secret entrance this time. And then, because they figure the Doctor's probably still at the monastery then, or he went back. And
Right.
So they get to the monastery, they're like exploring, and then they find the monk's TARDIS, disguised as a sarcophagus.
Yeah, his chameleon circuit actually works.
So does his landing. He knows where he's going.
Yep. Basically, way better than the Doctor, except way more evil. So in the monk's TARDIS are all these ancient relics or artifacts that he's collected from different time periods. And
the Doctor and the monk reconvene again, and the Doctor somehow gets control of the monk again, and they go into this TARDIS. Oh, the Doctor steals the Viking's sword and threatens the monk with it, and tells the monk to take him to the TARDIS. So they're in the TARDIS, and then the Doctor meets Stephen and Vicky again. He's like, yes, this is a problem we'll have to solve together, isn't it? Just not even saying hi, just jumping right in. Then he gives Stephen the sword and tells him to watch the monk.
But the monk runs away. It's actually pretty funny. You see Stephen and the Doctor and Vicky talking in the foreground, and in the background you see the monk run across screen.
And then he gets away. But apparently the monk has a Type 4 TARDIS, which is
a newer model apparently.
Yeah, it has like drift control. Just something you hear in like a Fast and the Furious movie.
And apparently, even though the Doctor doesn't know how to work his own TARDIS, he knows how to tamper with the monks. So he takes out this some circuitry from.
Yeah, that's later.
Oh.
We've skipped the part where the monk, after running away, goes to the village and tells the villagers to light signal fires.
Oh, right. And that really evil thing he does to the Viking. Okay. So.
Right, he tells them to light signal fires. And then he goes back to the monastery. And then the villagers are smarter than you think, because they put together the signal fires with the Doctor's warning of the Vikings. So they think the monk is a Viking spy now. So they decide to storm the monastery.
But the monk tells the Vikings, who he's now teamed up with, to go light the signal fires in quotes, which are actually his cannons, instead. Which I thought was actually pretty evil and black-hearted move, because like he's basically using the Vikings to kill their own men. So like if his plan succeeded, then Sven and I can never remember the other dude's name would have ended up like killing their friends.
And the Doctor, Stephen, and Vicky have been tied up again in the monastery. I think by the Vikings. Probably by the Vikings.
So the villagers storm the monastery, and there's some chaos.
And they chase the monk and the Vikings away. And they're still chasing them, but a couple of them stay behind, like Edith, and they untie the Doctor, Stephen and Vicky, and like, thanks for all your help, guys. You should come to the village for the feast. And the Doctor's like, yes, I think we will.
But then they never do.
Yeah, they don't. Thanks.
So
then the Doctor tampers with his TARDIS.
Right. He takes out some circuitry and writes a letter to the monk, and then they go back to the TARDIS. And according to the wiki, the Vikings get captured by the villagers and then killed.
We just saw them get captured.
Yeah, we didn't see them get killed.
And the monk's like, hey, Vikings, there's a well over there. Quick, we can hide in there. And then he runs the opposite way. And the Vikings come back like, there was no well. Dang it. And they get captured.
But yeah, we won't be adding them to our death count because we didn't see them get killed.
So the monk shows back up at the monastery.
He goes into his TARDIS. Well, he goes to his TARDIS and he sees the letter. And it's from the Doctor, obviously. And it says, it's basically telling him how
he's trapped the monk there, and someday he'll come back and let him go, maybe.
And the monk's like, haha, yeah, right, I still have my TARDIS.
He could never trap me with a Type 4. Then he opens the door and he's like, no, what has he done? He's taken my dimensional control.
And the inside is no longer bigger than the outside.
It's the same size.
So everything's shrunken.
You just see the monk's head barely fit in the door, and he's like, no, Doctor!
And then you see him, like, go off to the side and, like, put his head in his hands and, like, be all depressed and stuff.
Trapped in 1066.
And
the Doctor and Stephen and Vicky just leave in their TARDIS.
And that's the end of season 2. It ends on a really dark note with the Doctor trapping a guy.
No, but then there's that scene where it's like a space backdrop and it's the theme playing and it's just Vicky's face and then Steven's face and then the Doctor's face.
Yes, even back then they were superimposing faces onto credit sequences.
And that was the end of season 2.
Yeah, no, now that I think about it, they have a really weird trend of superimposing faces over stuff. Because if you think about it, in the pilot, they had that strange scene with all their faces and stuff. Right. It was the end of season 2. So, regarding season 3, all of the episodes are missing. Well,
not season 3. There's like one serial that's complete in season 3. And season 4 is the one without a complete serial. Right,
so we're going to be going back and forth starting for the next couple of weeks. Well, for the foreseeable future, we'll be going back and forth between reconstructions and like some full episodes.
Yay.
I wonder if there are any animations coming up.
Maybe.
Should we watch any more animations?
Yes.
Yes.
I don't want to be overloaded with reconstructions.
Okay. Hopefully they'll be from a different studio than the ones who did, what was it? The Reign of Terror. Which actually was the last serial of season 1, huh?
Yeah.
It's been quite a long time since
It was
then.
a season ago.
Yeah. Doesn't feel like that long ago, though.
Well, that's because we only had 2 reconstructions to watch in this season.
Right.
And they were in the Crusade, which was halfway through the season, basically. Ish. A little bit past halfway through this season.
Right, so should we do a retrospect on season 2?
Major events that happened. Susan left. Vicky joined. Ian and Barbara left. Steven joined. Basically the entire shakeup of the Doctor's companions.
Right. In the course of one season, only the Doctors left from the original group.
And I also think this was Verity Lambert's final season.
Right.
Season 3 had a different executive producer.
No, I thought she started season 3 and then left midway through season 3.
Well, we can find out.
Yes, we have resources.
Season 3... Oh, it was produced...
Behind the scenes,
oh, yeah,
it was
producers
dominated...
John Wiles, Insloyd, Verity Lambert.
Yeah, she left during season 3. But season 2, actually, I liked better than season 1.
Yeah, overall there was more fun stories.
Right, there was the Web Planet, that was really good. The Crusade was pretty funny. There was what else was there?
It was the Space Museum, where they saw their own future and all that jazz.
Yeah.
There's a list here. Scroll up. There we go. The Web Planet, which was pretty good.
Right.
With the thingy and the...
And the Romans, of course. Romans and the Crusade were just... I guess the Crusade was unintentionally funny, but the Romans...
Dalek invasion of Earth, the first reappearance of an enemy. The Daleks showing up again.
Yeah.
And the chase, the third appearance of the Daleks.
Yeah, now that I think about it, I know before I said I didn't like how there were 2 Dalek serials in the same season and so close to each other. But now that I think about it, having Susan go out on in a Dalek serial, well, I was okay with, because that was the first one. That was the first reappearance, and the first reappearance of them this season. But then having Steven join in the chase, I thought was also a pretty good move. Just because... You know what? Actually, I don't even know why.
Well, we didn't know Steven joined until this week, the Time Meddler.
Well, it was pretty obvious that he was going to join. It was pretty obvious. And, like, who else would chase the Doctor through time but the Daleks?
Well, yeah. Until we meet the Cybermen. The other reoccurring villain that's lost until present day. Who first show up in the serial where the Doctor dies. First Doctor. So.
And season 2 also gave us another reoccurring villain, the Monk, who I liked a lot. I mean, not liked as in
they
thought
only
he was...
use him one more time.
Oh,
in
really?
the Dalek invasion of Earth.
No, I thought he came back again.
No, I think he only comes back in the Dalek invasion of Earth.
Oh, they should bring him back then. Well, they should have brought him back, and maybe they should for the reboot.
Well, they created another reoccurring villain in the Master, who's also a Time Lord, who's like the Doctor's arch nemesis, who has lost it till present day.
Huh. Okay, so yeah, maybe they shouldn't bring back the Monk in that case, because I think 2 Time Lord villains.
The Monk shows up apparently
overkill.
in lots of audio dramas, though. He regenerates at least once. So, that's a thing, at least. Listen to the audio dramas for more Monk.
Or watch Monk. It's actually the same. Adrian Monk is actually Monk. He's a Time Lord.
Yeah,
No.
what if he is?
Yeah. They could just reveal that it takes place in the same universe and that it's the same...
Monk ended 4 years ago, though.
Really? Has it been 4 years?
Yeah, it did in 2010. Or
Huh.
2011.
Huh.
It was a while ago.
I've barely watched any Monk, though, so... Whatever.
What are we looking forward for season 3?
The random one-off episodes that aren't going to be reconstructions.
I'm excited for that 12-episode serial.
Right, season 3 goes from having a 1-episode serial to having a 12-episode serial 2 weeks later.
Which is the longest serial until season 24, which is one serial, 14 episodes. But it's 14 episodes of one serial, which is subdivided into 4 sub-serials.
God. Complication. But, yeah, we'll have to decide how to tackle that 12-episode serial.
If you have any ideas, email us, because we didn't get any emails this week either. The
Makes
doctor
us sad.
at decorativevegetable.com.
Do it.
And next week we're watching Galaxy 4.
The first serial of season 3.
No idea what it's about.
Me neither.
The title gives away nothing either.
And there wasn't a... Well, yeah. There wasn't any hint as to what they're doing next. Like there sometimes is.
Yeah, at the end of this serial there wasn't any next time. So... presumably Vicky and Steven will come back, unless they just like, kill them off between seasons or something.
Just season 3 just opens, the doctor's like, well, you know, it's a shame that Vicky and Steven had to die in that freak accident. No.
It's a shame the Daleks got to Steven and Vicky. Oh well.
Yeah, that would actually be terrible. Good thing it doesn't happen, because we spoiled it.
They should just write out every companion in a Dalek episode.
Well, we'll see. I mean, actually, I already know that they don't, but...
Yeah, I already know Vicky doesn't leave in a Dalek serial, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't actually know what serial she leaves in, but I know how she leaves. And you know what serial Steven leaves in.
And how he leaves.
We need to stop spoiling this for ourselves.
Well, at least we didn't spoil Galaxy 4. Which I'm going to try not to look up any information about to keep myself in the dark. So it can be interesting. Cool.
Rate us on iTunes. Tell all your friends about us.
Tell all your enemies about us. Have an arch nemesis Time Lord that you fight as you travel through the ages. Tell him to listen to our podcast.
Yep, do that. Next week, Galaxy 4.
But until then, the end.